And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Friday, March 28th. I am Josh Engleman, here to break down a 7-game NBA slate. Screw baseball. Who cares? Basketball is here, and that is what we care about on these streets. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live, and follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. You guys enjoy yourselves last night? You have some fun basketball? You get Josh Giddey, 66 fantasy points, 25, 14, and 11, 7 turnovers. Highest scorer on the slate. 60 more out of Donovan Mitchell. Luka, Shea, Big one out of Sabonis. Probably needed Castle, Scottie Pippen, Hartenstein, Kobe White. Kyle Filipowski. That's fitting. Didn't play. I went out and got some lobster bisque in a bread bowl with some additional lobster on top. It was delicious. It was absolutely delicious. Die 150 in pick 6. Nailed all 8 picks. It's always good to see. You know, you wish that's a DFS lineup, because if you nail all 8 picks in a DFS lineup, that could be $100,000, but, you know, 150 works. But yeah, we're here. We're breaking it all down. Are those fires near me? I'm going to go with no, but they could be, and I don't know. I don't even know what you mean. No, opposite side of the state. Didn't even know they existed, but no, that's the dead opposite side of the state. Oh, wow. Interactive fire map. Perfect. That is exactly what I need. Oh, boy. Wow, that's really bad. Yeah, no, that's like 6 hours for me. Appreciate you looking out, but no, that's quite far away for me. On that note, guys, let's get it started. Let's close out this work week. Obviously, I'll be back Sunday for the morning show. Also, I'm on projections Sunday at night, so I'll be in and around our Discord on Sunday night. Might even go live on playback solo, just if I'm going to be sitting at my desk updating projections. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But for now, we're going to start it off. Cleveland Cavaliers, 6.5 point favorites in Detroit, 230 total. This is actually the second highest total on today's slate. We got a kind of a tough one ahead of us. We have 3 games sub 220. We've got 3 games that are 13 points or higher in their line. So we are kind of looking at Cleveland, but we need to know the first step of Cleveland right away. And it's the most important part here, and it's the one thing that there's nothing we could do about. We can't really talk about Cleveland just yet. And that's kind of annoying, because you would want to talk about this game, but they're on a back-to-back. So I don't think... Like, do I expect someone to sit for Cleveland today? Yeah, kind of. If we're being honest, I would expect Garland or Allen to kind of bag this one, but I don't know that for sure. I can say that the line is 6.5, and I have it at 9 with everybody in. That leads me to believe that Darius Garland might sit today. So I feel like they're going to rest somebody on the back-to-back. We don't know who that's going to be. If everybody's in, Jared Allen's 10% owned. Strus and Mitchell are 5% owned. No one else got an optimal rate higher than 2%. Jared Allen's is the highest on DraftKings at 6%. I don't think we're looking at Cleveland if Evan Mobley's back and Ty Jerome's back and nobody else sits. If Garland sits, then we're looking at Mitchell. We're looking at Mobley. We're probably looking at Ty Jerome. Hard to hypothesize here, because this is a team that has absolutely nothing to play for. Their only goal at this point is just making sure everybody is healthy for a month from now. So we need their injury report. Everything here is subject to change. I should probably touch on this now before I go any further. Schedule for the rest of the day. And this is very important because everything is different now that baseball is here. So I want to make sure that you guys know what's up for today. MLB Live Before Lock is at 5 o'clock. That'll run from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. NBA Live Before Lock is from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Greg and Bellman are on the baseball show. Myself and Eric are on the NBA show. And then Greg and I will be live on playback, breaking this one down. Great slate as well for it. 2 7:30 locks for late swaps. 3 8 o'clock swaps for late swaps. Playback is the place to be. You do not want to miss Greg and I today. Massively important late swap slate. S&P. I mean, like, yes and no. I mean, OKC is way more likely to get it because they're up 2 games. But, like, if the difference for Cleveland is rest guys or try to fight OKC for overall number 1, they're going to rest guys. If Boston were more on their heels, I think that could be a different answer. But with Boston 5 games back, like, I can't imagine Cleveland cares. And then OKC's lapping the field. They're up 13 games. So, like, I can't imagine those two are going to do anything other than just make sure they're whole. FanDuel side of Cleveland, kind of the same situation. We don't have anybody in the top 30. Nobody got higher than a 5% optimal. Donovan Mitchell's getting a little bit more ownership, but I'm not going to spend too much time here on Cleveland because I don't think there's much of a point in doing so. If we talk bets for right now, we have anything for Cleveland. We do have Detroit, which we're about to get to, so I might as well just say it now. 7 OddsShopper rating, 3.5% EV, under 3.5 threes made for Malik Beasley on Onyx odds. It's not bad. It's not bad. Let's look at Detroit. So Pistons, this is a place where we're getting a lot of ownership. I don't think anybody's going to be all that shocked to hear that. Cade Cunningham, not playing today. So with no Cade Cunningham, everything looks different for Detroit. 3 guys in the top 10. Asar Thompson at 6. Dennis Schroeder at 8. Marcus Sasser at 10. They're all 20 to 30% owned. Sasser at 22. Schroeder at 27. Asar at 28. I got more of Asar, but I'm over on Asar, over on Sasser, neutral on Schroeder. We do have Tobias Harris cracking the top 30, which I think is interesting here. Tobias, this is a testament of the slate. Tobias Harris ranks 29th, 6% optimal, 5% owned. So the concentration is very in the top 10, and you'll see why in a bit when we get to Giannis. Oh, yeah, S&P. I mean, we're on the same page, but that's nothing new. Nothing really coming in Tim Hardaway or Duran. A little bit to Isaiah Stewart for center value if you want it. But the priorities here are the guards taking the place of Cade Cunningham. What do you guys like the most here from the Pistons? Schroeder, Asar, or Marcus Sasser? And then Beasley's fine, ranking 21st, 10% optimal. I got 10% of him. Not as great on FanDuel, but basically the same thing. Schroeder is 9th. Malik Beasley is 11th. Asar Thompson is 13th. But there's a real big gap in ownership. Now, they're all basically 27% optimal, but Schroeder's getting more ownership. Beasley's in the middle. Asar Thompson's more limited in that one. And then Tobias Harris, kind of the same guy that he is on the DraftKings side. Gary Bailey likes Tobias. Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting. Let's take a look at Tobias Harris with Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey off the floor. So we're going to get Tobias Harris on, and we're going to say Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey off. And then let's put other rotational guys on. So let's say Schroeder, Hardaway, Beasley, Beef Stew, Duran, Sasser, Fontecchio, Asar, Ron Holland. And let's say at least 3 of those guys are on the floor. So Tobias Harris with other starters, not the main guys. He's played 352 minutes with Cade and Ivy off. 21.5% usage rate in that time, 57% true shooting. Honestly, nothing too crazy there. So obviously, it's a usage bump, but nothing too wild. Gary, I'm going to go ahead and disagree that the matchup for Tobias Harris is great for him. I don't think that Evan Mobley on the opposite side is a good way to line it up. Yeah, if Beasley would ever decide to miss, that would be interesting. Let's just take a look at that. I'm going to replace Harris, and I'm going to flip-flop Harris and Beasley. So Beasley on. We'll add Tobias Harris as a potential guy to be on. What is Malik Beasley shooting? 526 minutes, 66.5% true shooting. He's 100 for 209 from 3. He's shooting 47.85% from 3 in 526 minutes with Cade and Ivy off. 100 of 209. He's almost 50% from 3. Whew. Gary, I'm not saying to not play Tobias Harris, but matchup-wise, it's not great. But Schroeder, Asar, and Marcus Sasser are the actual priorities coming from Detroit. Do we have any new bets? The Beasley bet has gone away. Evan Mobley is at a 1 OddsShopper rating, so we'll skip that. We're only going to focus on anything 2 or higher, which I guess... Let me edit that portfolio and just make it 2 or higher. Done. Okay, so that's all we have with a 2 or higher right now on OddsShopper, none of which are in this game. So we will continue on to game number 2. Clippers, 13-point favorites in Brooklyn, 214 total. This is the lowest total on today's slate. This is the lowest pace on today's slate. I have it at 92 possessions. That is 3 possessions below the next closest game. No one's getting to the Clippers. They are, at this moment, the least owned team. Brooklyn is the second least owned team. This is the lowest owned game by a mile. As of right now, there is no injury news for the Clippers. They're at full strength. The most owned player is James Harden at 5%. The most optimal is Harden or Powell at 3%. And the most I got of anybody is 1%. I have no Clippers whatsoever. Nothing. I don't know how you recommend it. No different on FanDuel. I mean, 8% ownership to Norm Powell. He's a little bit better. But we're not going anywhere here. We're not going anywhere here. Why would we? What could we get to? Christian, ignore wherever he got that info from. That information is not relevant. There's no such thing as power forwards dominate teams. It's not a thing. But yeah, 3% optimal to Harden. 3% optimal to Norm Powell. There's nothing here. There's nothing here. DraftKings or FanDuel. I don't see it. Trevor, I can get a little bit more behind centers specifically because they're the one position that we can assign without ambiguity. When you say power forward, you are at the mercy of whatever they determine the power forward to be in play-by-play stats. Center is very rarely wrong. The person that plays the 2, the 3, the 4 could be anybody based on positional designations. Like, for example, good luck telling me what position Ben Simmons plays. He's a 4 on defense. He's a 1 on offense. You know, he's a center on DraftKings. He's point guard power forward on FanDuel. What position is that? That's where it gets a little dumb. Centers are centers. Like, Nikola Jokic isn't ever the shooting guard when you're 7 feet tall. But when it comes to wings, I don't ever... If you want to look at like play type stuff, like this team is bad against a pick and roll, that's where I start to think it looks a little bit better. But power forward as a position is not a thing. The Clippers are good, man. The Clippers are really good. Why wouldn't they have traded Paul George? I'll never understand it. Let's go to Brooklyn. Brooklyn Nets. Kind of the same team they always are. Incredibly difficult to play today because it seems like we could have everybody, but that could change. Trendon Watford, questionable illness. Zaire Williams, questionable illness. Day'Ron Sharpe still out. No ownership coming into Brooklyn. Now, we have Trendon Watford ranking 17th, 11% optimal, 8% owned. He made it to 9% of my lineups. Nobody else has an optimal rate north of 4. Nobody else has ownership higher than 3. There's a reason this team's not getting much ownership. It's a terrible matchup against the Clippers. Pace is slow, total's slow. I don't want Brooklyn. And for the most part, it's the same on FanDuel. You can still get to a little bit of Trendon Watford. You can get to like 5% of Russell or Keon Johnson. But if they're full strength, we're not really paying attention to Brooklyn. If Zaire Williams and Trendon Watford end up out, then we're going to have some value for Brooklyn in Noah Clowney and someone else. If one of those guys are out, it might even look a little bit better. But at full strength, no shot on Brooklyn today. The most I got is 9% of Watford, so I don't even have double digits of anybody. It's wild that the Clippers picking up Bogdanovich after years of like Terrence Mann is untouchable, and then he's just like completely touchable. Oh, coffee's hitting good today. Let's see if we have any OddsShopper bets on this one. And we do. James Harden, under 2.5 threes on Caesars. 16 OddsShopper rating, 7% EV. That's pretty damn good. So if you bet on Caesars, this one has existed for a minute. Looking pretty tasty. Let's go to game 3. Charlotte Hornets, 6.5 point underdogs in Toronto, 216 total. Nah, not like THT. They made the right move with THT. They cut bait early enough. But I didn't mind that contract they gave to THT. It looks bad in hindsight, but it made sense at the time. Unfortunately for us, the Charlotte Hornets make sense. They certainly make sense on FanDuel. They make sense on DraftKings too, but in a very different way. The priority coming out of Charlotte is going to be KJ Simpson. He ranks 4th, 40% optimal, 40% owned. He's 4K. If you're curious why KJ Simpson looks like a name you should click on today, it's very simple. No LaMelo Ball. No Josh Okogie today. KJ Simpson in this scenario. Tough guy to dodge. Although, in theory, he could play less, but I don't expect him to. He played 16 minutes and 22 minutes over the last 2 games. Those are both with LaMelo in. In the game that LaMelo sat on the 21st with KJ Simpson finally back with the team, he played 33 minutes. We got him in for 31. He's in 35% of my stuff. We're absolutely getting to a lot of KJ Simpson. Priority all day. Unfortunately for us, I also think that we could play Tijan Salam, 3,100 power forward only. 15% optimal, 15% owned in 21% of my lineups. He's terrible at basketball, but we need value to pay up for Jokic and Giannis. So Salam ends up in lineups. We saw Yusuf Nurkic play 20 minutes last time out. They did not play Moussa Diabate. Nurkic played 15 the game before that. Diabate only got 5. So it seems like they're leaning a little bit more on Nurkic. 3,900, you can play 5 to 10% of him. But after that, a couple shares of Nick Smith, Mark Williams, or Miles Bridges are okay. But it's prioritize Simpson, play a bit of Salon and Nurkic. FanDuel is where it's different. 3 guys in the top 10. KJ Simpson ranking 4th. Same play on FanDuel as he is on DraftKings. Just play a ton of him. Mark Williams is 7,200 on FanDuel, 8,200 on DraftKings. So you're not all that excited to play Mark Williams on DraftKings. You're very excited to play him on FanDuel. Ranks 5th, 29% optimal, 22% owned. Bit of a priority. Miles Bridges, 8,900 on DraftKings, 8,200 on FanDuel, ranks 8th, 27% optimal, 32% owned. So very different plays on FanDuel compared to DraftKings. You're not really going to Nurkic on FanDuel because it's one center. Salon is not the same value on FanDuel, but Bridges and Mark Williams are way different. KJ Simpson, on the other hand, top 5 play on both sites no matter what. We do have a Miles Bridges under 2.5 threes made on Fanatics. 9 OddsShopper rating, 4% EV. Really good bet if you want to try to grab that. Yeah, Christian, that's not going to have any value, brother. Sorry. That's not going to have any value. Now we have the Toronto Raptors experience that we normally have. Guys out, pain in the ass team. Ochai Agbaji is out for rest. RJ Barrett is out for rest. Chris Boucher still battling the illness of being sick and tired of Toronto. No Grady Dick, no Jared Rhoden. 10% ownership to Jacoby Walter. 10% optimal. He ranks 27th. Showed up in 13% of my lineups. 10% of Jakob Poeltl. 10% optimal. I got 15%. Ranks 19th at 6,100. I liked him a lot last time out. I like him here again. I think he's going to play like 27 minutes or so, especially with no Colin Castleton around any longer. I just expect him to split most of the minutes with Orlando Robinson. So I'm happy to get the Poeltl. I don't have anything else here. I don't think Quickly looks good. I don't think Battle looks good. I don't think Barnes looks good. Mobo or Shed, if they're coming off the bench, no thank you. On the FanDuel end, nobody ranks in the top 30. Jacoby Walter is the most owned and most optimal guy, but you're probably just not grabbing a lot of the Raptors. Ryan Cox, I have no idea what those numbers are. I've never looked at them in my life. I would never look at them. Whatever they're assigning for ranks for defense, ignore it. It's not useful information. Here's why that stuff doesn't matter. This is an even more important situation. Let's say you pull up the app and let's ignore Toronto's like the way they're playing right now. Let's say Scotty Barnes is set for 36 minutes. And on day 1, you see Scotty Barnes with the best possible matchup, and you see Scotty Barnes on day 2 with the worst possible matchup. Just imagine those two scenarios. What if on the best possible matchup day, Scotty Barnes is 10K? And on the worst possible matchup day, Scotty Barnes is 8K. In both of those scenarios, the defensive matchup no longer matters because price is driving everything. We're already handling matchup in the projections. So when you try to like double count that stuff, you're not helping yourself. We handle defensive situations in the projections. It all comes out in the final number. So if you look at somebody and think, I don't want to play them, they're in a bad matchup, all you're doing is double counting that to some degree. It's already accounted for. We do have a Toronto bet, if anybody's interested. 2 OddsShopper rating, 2.7% EV on DraftKings, under 5.5 assists for Emmanuel Quickly. We also have this. The MLB season is here. It kicked off yesterday. It's right back here again today. MLB DFS for $1 using the promo code CYCLE. No matter which package you choose, core, max, weekly, monthly, you will get our MLB DFS package for $1 through April 3rd. That's going to cover projections, ownership, our single lineup sim, our regular sims, our contest generator, our post-contest sims. Top stacks tool, top pitchers tool, top batters tool, premium Discord, plus any other content that we have. The MLB package is awesome. MLB DFS is awesome. And you'll get it for $1 through April 3rd. It's an incredible deal. You'll get a couple more days to check it out for $1. You will re-up at whichever package you choose on April 4th. But for now, you get it for $1. Now you get it for $1. MLB DFS, man, it's so much fun. Especially day baseball when you don't have anything else going on. Oh, it's so good. So good. Alrighty. Let's keep it moving, I guess. Let's go to New York. Now, this game is going to be an issue. The New York Knicks are 1-point favorites in Milwaukee, 219 total. Now, the assumption, I think, for right now is that Tyler Kolek will start at point guard. I am not going to get married to that thought just yet. I think it's very live for DeLon Wright to start. Tibbs hates young people. And while he might hate DeLon Wright, I think that he might like DeLon Wright more than Tyler Kolek for a start. What I do think is that we have no idea how many minutes these guys are going to play. And I think being somewhere in the 24 range for both is correct. Right now, I have them in for 22 apiece. I have no confidence in the minutes for Tyler Kolek or DeLon Wright. We will obviously have more confidence in whoever actually starts. I don't know who that's going to be. Kolek's 3,200 on DraftKings, point guard only. DeLon Wright is the flat min 3K, point guard, shooting guard eligible. Last game, essentially, Cam Payne gets hurt. Tyler Kolek plays the entire third quarter. DeLon Wright plays the entire fourth quarter. Very difficult to understand who's going to be the priority here. Right now, they're both like 10% owned. Right now, they're both like 10% optimal. Whoever is really the starter will look a little bit better. But there's a lot of variance on the playing time for either Tyler Kolek or DeLon Wright. The guy you really want to get to for the New York Knicks is Karl Anthony Towns. 10,200. No Jalen Brunson. 23% optimal. 25% owned. He's 45% of my lineups. Ranks 9th overall. I'll happily take shares of Bridges, Hart, or Anunoby. I don't think they look any different from each other, so they're difficult to pick from. But it's Towns as a DraftKings priority. Something with Tyler Kolek and DeLon Wright. But I just don't know yet. And I don't want to tell people like jam Tyler Kolek and then DeLon Wright starts and everything looks different. I mean, I think they could entertain starting Landry Shamet. I think they could entertain starting Precious Achiuwa. But we need to pay attention. Now, FanDuel, Kolek is 3,900, point guard only. DeLon Wright is 3,500, so the minimum on FanDuel, point guard only. On FanDuel, you should absolutely prioritize Kolek over DeLon Wright until we get the news. Because worst case scenario, you can swap Kolek to Wright. So because of DeLon Wright having shooting guard eligibility on DraftKings, it's a little bit more complicating. But on FanDuel, there's really no incentive to assume DeLon Wright is the guy. Yeah, S&P, that's what I was thinking. It wouldn't shock me at all if they start Precious. Just get bigger, run your guards in the second unit, bring on a point guard like 4 minutes in. Josh Hart looks a lot better on FanDuel. He's 7,900 there, 8,100 on DraftKings. Towns is still fine at 10-1 on FanDuel. Anunoby or Bridges are both fine. But it's a lot easier to assume Tyler Kolek over DeLon Wright because you can make that swap without any effort if you need to. Let's see if we have any bets. Nothing up here for the Knicks right now, unfortunately. So yeah, we're going to need this starting lineup. This is the type of thing you watch the playback show for. Because Greg and I will be live on playback waiting for this news, whether we get it at 7 or 7:30 or 7:45. We have 3 games locking at 8 that we're going to swap around to. That's the point of the playback show. Coming in, watching the games, and knowing who's going to be starting here. Because that's going to impact a lot. But we're just guessing right now otherwise. Speaking of guessing, the Milwaukee side of this one does have an interesting piece to it. Because right now, Giannis is questionable and he didn't play their most recent game. However, Giannis Antetokounmpo is $11,500. Damian Lillard is not playing. He's power forward center eligible. He's 80% optimal, 75% owned, the number one guy. Do I think he's 75% owned when we get to lock? No, it'll probably be like 50 or 60. But if Giannis is in, he's the best play of the day. No Dame, great eligibility, not even all that problematic of a price, great matchup. I don't know how you get away from Giannis. To me, he's the best play of the day if he's in. And if he's out, then we're doing like heavy KPJ again. I mean, I'm already doing that, but even more so. Kuzma becomes a thing. Taurean Prince can be rostered. Trent looks better. Rollins looks better. Connaughton becomes a thing potentially. So we need the Giannis questionable news. But he's in 77% of my lineups right now. KPJ ranks 5th. I 2x the field here. 40% optimal, 20% owned, 46% of my lineups. He's 4,900. Got him in for 28 minutes. Got 20% of Gary Trent. Got a couple shares of Brook Lopez. They got 3 guys in the top 12 on DraftKings. But Giannis, massive priority. Massive priority. And then on FanDuel, same situation. 11-8 for Giannis. Power forward only. Ranks first. 70% owned. It'll be lower. KPJ ranks 3rd. 30% owned. 40% optimal. Looks amazing. Gary Trent's 20% owned. He ranks 12th. Looks great. Lopez is 10% owned. 12% optimal. He ranks 16th. He looks really good. Lots to like here for Milwaukee, and it could look very different. But we got to keep our eye on it. I'd say it's like 60-40 Giannis in. It's not definitive in any way, so we'll see. We'll see. Any Milwaukee bets? Now we're down to 3. Harden quickly and pods, and that's it. So yeah, we need the Giannis news. It dictates everything on this slate. Completely changes the pay up options. Completely changes the way that we look at everything. To Phoenix we go. Suns are 7-point dogs in Minnesota, 226 total. There's nothing here like it's like there normally never is anything for Phoenix. 7-point dogs. Highest owned guy is Royce O'Neal at 8%. He's 12% optimal. That won't look like it does later, but he's 3,400 and we don't have a ton of value and you need to get to Giannis. He's in 10% of my lineups. I got 2% of Booker. I got 0 shares of Kevin Durant. They are 2 and 1% optimal, respectively. Nobody's owned more than 4% outside of Royce O'Neal. It's a bad matchup on the road against Minnesota. Phoenix is just generally not a very good DFS team. Hate it. FanDuel, even worse. 5% ownership to Devin Booker is the most of anybody. 6% optimal to Colin Gillespie is the most of anybody. This is a team of 5%ers at best. There's nothing on DraftKings for Phoenix. There's nothing on FanDuel for Phoenix. This is just not a team that we are going to be paying attention to in any appreciable way. There's just nothing here. Every single player for Phoenix on DraftKings and FanDuel is less than 10% owned. I see nothing. I see nothing. For Minnesota, pretty much the same scenario. They're at full strength. They play 8 guys. Well, they play like 8.5 guys. The most owned guy is Mike Conley, 9% owned, 10% optimal. Mike Conley is down to $3,500. So I'm fine getting Mike Conley for value if he plays 22 minutes. I got 9% of DiVincenzo, 6% of Walker, 4% of Reed. Nobody's in double digits of ownership on DraftKings. Only Conley got to double digit optimal. On the FanDuel side, it's pretty much the same thing. Nobody got to double digit optimal. 9% for Ant, 8% for DiVincenzo. They're 10 and 8% owned. They rank just outside the top 25. There's no priorities for Minnesota. There just aren't. This is the second lowest owned game of the day behind Clippers and Brooklyn, and I don't have a single disagreement anywhere. It's very underwhelming on both sides. Still no Minnesota bets on OddsShopper. But I don't have anybody that I would like to get a bunch of. Again, guys are playable. You have shares of Conley, Edwards, Randall, Gobert, DiVincenzo, Reed, Walker. Yeah, you can get 5% of any of these guys. But you're not looking at anybody here and thinking, I got to get 20% of this dude. So we move on. Golden State. Warriors are... Now, these last 2 games are death. Warriors, Pels, 8 o'clock start. Jazz, Nuggets, 9 o'clock start. Warriors are 14-point favorites in New Orleans, 223 total. We are waiting on injury news. We already know that Gary Payton is out for the foreseeable future. Steph Curry still questionable. If Steph is in, the most optimal play for the DraftKings slate is Jonathan Kuminga at 7%. The highest owned guy on DraftKings for the Warriors is Jonathan Kuminga at 6%. The most that I got of any Warrior is 3% to Draymond Green. They don't look all that good if Steph is in. Yeah, you can get Kuminga and Green, Steph and Pods. You probably don't get much. Now, if Steph is out, boost up Pajemski, boost up Moody, boost up Jimmy Butler, boost Kuminga, boost Buddy Hield. Everybody looks incrementally better, and they're in a great matchup against the Pels. I'm expecting Steph to play, and I'm not expecting to roster very much of the Golden State Warriors. Slightly different on the FanDuel side. Draymond, same positionality, but just looks better because of how FanDuel works. 12% optimal, 12% owned. I mean, Kuminga, Butler, and Draymond rank 19th, 20th, and 21st. They're all 15 to 20% owned, but Butler's $400 cheaper. Kuminga gets an MPE. They're a little bit more reasonable. You don't really want to get to Steph or Pods. Not too much of Moody. Butler, Green, and Kuminga on FanDuel. It's really nothing on DraftKings. Now, we still do have the pods bet out there. 4 OddsShopper rating, 3.9% EV, plus 130, under 1.5 threes made on Fliff. So if you're a Fliff guy, we got a pods bet. New Orleans Pelicans. Now, this is a team that we're going to be getting to because the Pelicans are without CJ McCollum today and Zion Williamson. They're obviously without DeJounte Murray, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Brandon Boston. Herb Jones, CJ, Trey Murphy, DeJounte Murray, and Zion is probably their best 5-man lineup. They're all out. And that is giving us a number 3 ranking, 40% ownership, 40% optimal to a $5,100 Jose Alvarado. It's giving us just shy of 20% ownership to Kelly Olynyk, Yves Missi, and Jeremiah Robinson Earl. Now, JRE is showing up with a lot more optimal rate than those guys. My guess is we probably just need to take a minute away from him and then it'll all bring him into line. But you get a 5K power forward center, a 4K center, and a $3,400 power forward center that all look like they're 15 to 20% optimal, 15 to 20% owned. 4 guys ranking in the top 16. They all look like they should be at least 20% owned. And then I think you can get a couple shares of Elfrid Payton, potentially. And then if you have a couple shares of Jordan Hawkins or Bruce Brown, I don't think it's wrong. Same thing for FanDuel. 60% ownership coming into Jose Alvarado at 5,200. These guys are just too short-handed. I only have him in for 28 minutes. Kelly Olynyk ranks 6th. He's 30% owned, power forward center eligible, 26 minutes. Jordan Hawkins is 4,300, shooting guard only, ranks 24th, 20+% owned. Bruce Brown's 10% owned, 15% optimal. Now, you're not going to much else on the FanDuel side. You're not going to Yves Missi. But you are going to the Pelicans a lot. Alvarado across both sites. Missi on DraftKings. Olynyk on both sites. JRE on both sites. Looking good. Looking good. Gary Bailey likes Olynyk. Yeah. Christian Valentine, congrats, brother. Congrats. As much as I want to make the joke of use that for OddsShopper and betting and Pick'em, use it on the kid, man. That's good. All right, final game. Here we go. Utah Jazz. 17.5 point underdogs in Denver. 238 total. That's grimy. That's grimy. So Utah. They're on a back-to-back. So we don't have their injury report. I don't know who's playing for the Jazz. They never do. So I'm just going to say this. If Bryce Sensabaugh is projected for 24 minutes today at 3,700, he's the type of value play that helps get you to Giannis and Jokic. He's 20% owned. If Colin Sexton is projected for 28 minutes, he's going to be like 20% owned. Maybe a couple shares of Keontae George. On Utah, kind of the same thing. Maybe a little Filipowski, ranks 23rd. I'm not even going to hypothesize Utah right now because they're live to sit God knows who. But $3,700 Bryce Sensabaugh needs 24 minutes to look like a 20%er. Colin Sexton needs 28 minutes to look like a 20%er. I can say those things now regardless of who's in. But I don't know who's in. And I'm not even going to try to guess. It's not worth the time. Utah is a death sentence. Last game of the slate. No injury report. Not worth the guess. Denver, on the other hand, Q-tag Jamal Murray But we need to be playing $12,300 Nikola Jokic. 58% optimal. 59% of my lineups. 50% owned, ranks second. Just for the reference here, that's 50+% ownership to Giannis and 50% ownership to Nikola Jokic on DraftKings. That's why we're playing all of these 3K losers that don't make sense. You need value today to get to Jokic and potentially Giannis. They're on a completely different planet than everybody else on this slate. We have Jokic projected for 67 fantasy points. We have Giannis projected for 66 fantasy points. The next highest projection is Karl Anthony Towns at 53. So more than 10 points away for third. And 20 fantasy points away from fourth, which would be James Harden at 43.9. When you have a gap where the projected highest scorers are 12 points clear of third and 20 plus clear of fourth, that's why you see this ownership coming into Jokic and Giannis, because their live points projection is so much higher that it's hard to ignore. So it's all Jokic for Denver on DraftKings. Little bit of Brown, Porter, or Gordon is okay. We need to pay attention to the status of Jamal Murray. If he ends up out, then maybe we get a little bit of Russell Westbrook. But this is very much Jokic and nothing else. FanDuel, basically the same scenario. Jokic is 12-6, so it's a little bit more problematic to get to him with one center. He's still 23% optimal, 22% owned, and ranks 10th. Murray, Brown, Porter, and Gordon are all 5%ers. But Jokic, get him. Get a lot of them. No Denver bets, unfortunately. I like this slate for late swaps. It's really good for the playback show tonight. But before we talk playback, before we talk anything else, what we need to do, build some lineups. The Czar is in the building. He has been just nuking this lineup building process. So maybe, just maybe, we'll figure it out here. Hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. Let's build this bad boy out. All right, we are going to start with Jeremiah Robinson Earl at power forward. We're going to get Kevin Porter Jr. in at point guard. I'm going to get Bryce Sensabaugh in at small forward. We're getting our value locked in. It feels like I'm going to get Giannis with basically no effort, even though I don't really want to. What else do I like here? There's so much value. Look at all these value plays. KJ Simpson at 4K, JRE 3,400, Salon at 3,100, Sasser at 3,300, Kolick, Conley, O'Neal, DeLon Wright, Nurkic, Elfrid Payton, Beef Stew, Jacoby Walters 12% owned. We have so many 3K dudes today. It feels like I have to get Giannis no matter what, which I think will allow me to then get Towns as well. So if I get Giannis, can I get Towns? Because that'll leave me out of the Jokic game. We're going to need a little bit more value. I think Gary Trent is the move there. But it could be DeLon Wright. Let's go DeLon Wright at shooting guard. Then we need 6,600 at guard. I think I'm going to go to Dennis Schroeder That leaves me 8,200 at utility. Best guy that I could take at utility for that price tag is Mark Williams for almost 39 fantasy points at no ownership. 91.1. I'm being optimistic. Very optimistic. 91.1. I think I knocked it out of the park first try. 61.5. I'll take that. I'm cool with that. What I want to do here is take out DeLon Wright, Mark Williams, and Dennis Schroeder. It would have been Schroeder, Pirtle, and Alvarado getting owned. What happens if I take those three guys out and optimal it again? Will I get better? Is this better or worse? I swapped out three guys and just took the optimals. 60.7, basically on the dot. I'll take it. Let's check FanDuel now. I'm sure I'll beat it, but the goal is 100. I think FanDuel is easier to build than DraftKings because of the positions. So we're going to go Brook Lopez at center. I wish I could get Mark Williams, but that's impossible. Kevin Porter Jr. goes in. Could move him if we need to. Trendon Watford certainly goes in. Gary Trent goes in. That's enough for Milwaukee now. Malik Beasley can get in there. I guess this is probably a spot where I grab KJ Simpson. And now we could start spending some real salary. Kind of feels like Ant, but he's such a bad per minute guy that that's going to be a SAR. Small forward. Actually, probably going to be Jimmy Butler. But I'm going to try Miles Bridges first. Power forward, we have a ton of salary left over. I'm going to get Kelly Olynyk. Now we need to think about how we could upgrade with 9K left. So, to me, the first guy I want to upgrade, honestly, is KJ Simpson, I think. Because we can grab... Yeah, I'm going to go to Keontae George. Cut the ownership. Add some points. Not a bad value. 7,900 left. Feels like I could upgrade one of Malik Beasley or a SAR. I don't have Giannis or Jokic in this lineup. That clearly needs to change. So I'm going to put Giannis in. Now I only have 1,000 left. What's the best combination if I take out Kelly Olynyk and Beasley? It's Kelly Olynyk and Schroeder. Let's try that with 500 left. 81.9. 82.9. 26. All right, we're going back to the drawing board there. I think I ate too much value. I think that's the problem. We're going to maintain Brook Lopez at center for sure. I can't see the way around Giannis. KPJ is a must. I think Trendon Watford is a must. Where am I missing the good spots to spend my salary? Point guard's just bleak. And I just have no reason to take Alvarado or KJ Simpson if I could take Keontae George. Shooting guard, bleak. That to me kind of has to be either Gary Trent or Asar Thompson. So I guess we got to make that Asar. I'm basically building the same lineup again. I guess Miles Bridges. which really does lead me to believe I'm not going to take Trent and Watford. Because Watford's a good value, but I might as well spend more and take Draymond. 5,200 at small forward. That would be a fourth buck. I don't want to do that. So I guess that becomes Bruce Brown. Where the hell do I spend $500 in salary then? It can't be small forward because there's not going to be anything better than Miles Bridges. That's actually not true. Nope. I can't afford those guys. It is Miles Bridges still. I mean, really, it's Jimmy Butler at the ownership discount. That leaves me 400. Anything better than Keontae George? No, I don't want to give up that ownership. Anything better than Beasley? Technically Gary Trent, but that gives me $4 and I don't want to do that. Anything better than Draymond? No. Can I upgrade Brook Lopez? No. That's the one, I guess. 48, 49, 52, something in that neighborhood. 60.9. That's where we're at today, guys. I think I hit 60 on all three lineups that are of any value. I'll take it. That works for me. That's going to end this show. Another one in the books, folks. Strategy show is done. Reminder, there is no deeper dive today or anymore. I am on Live Before Lock with Eric at 6 o'clock. That is where you're getting your NBA show. 1 hour. We're racing to the finish line. Hit that like button if you can. Sign up for the baseball promo. $1 promo code CYCLE. Link in the description or in chat. We'd love to have you guys. Good luck, everybody. I'll talk to you later.